Okay, so Gavin Newsom, pull up this article, Malik. So he's panicking that his son listens to people like Jordan Peterson, Andrew Tate, and Joe Rogan. There he is right there. So the governor...
Micro cults, I love that.
Yeah, exactly. He calls them micro cults. So the governor of California, who knows what happens with Joe Biden, might be the Democratic candidate for president. By the way, I was at the RNC last night. Vivek crushed it. DeSantis. Nikki's doing her thing. I don't know why Chris Christie and Tim Scott are still in the race, but obviously there's a guy called Trump that you guys might have heard of.
Yes.
But on the Democratic side of things, he's probably going to be the next in line if it's not Biden. So he had some pretty poignant things to say about people that I've interviewed. All three of these guys, or been with all three of these guys. Tate multiple times, Jordan Peterson multiple times. We were just in Austin with Rogan, PBD did a show. So I would say that these guys are some of the biggest studs on the planet, okay? So you might disagree with stuff, you might disagree with some other stuff, all good. But here's what Gavin Newsom had to say. I really worry about this disinformation about what's happening with our country, but what I really worry about are these micro cults that my kids are in. That's the best way to describe it. My son is asking me about Tate, Jordan Peterson, and Rogan, and I'm like, oh, there it is. That's the pathway, these micro cults. So when you hear something like this, so you're a father to a daughter, but if you did have a son, would you be okay with your son listening to those types of guys? And if not, who would you want them listening to?
Okay, so Rogan, I'd be totally okay with. Peterson, I got my own opinions about Peterson. I got my own opinions about Tate as well. But it's the thing is like none of the personalities that he's talking about are in any way associated with the manosphere. They're like when you like in fact, if anything, they dissociate themselves. Even Andrew Tate is saying he's not red pill anymore. So you've got Jordan Peterson, who hates my guts, by the way, as well as his daughter. So there's no way. There's no way he's part of the manosphere.
I'm not even saying so much manosphere.
I know that Rogan is never going to want to have that affiliation with the manosphere, and it's like he's not even a part of that. So the very fact that he's even bringing this up means he knows nothing about what he's talking about.
You're talking about Gavin Newsom.
Gavin Newsom. So most likely what's happening is it's his PR people or his handlers in some way. They want to make an issue of this now.
And
this is going to be something that's going to happen
in the world that talk about masculinity.
Are they micro cults? Are they micro cults?
Yeah, but...
maybe they're full-blown cults.
Michael, we have two issues here. The first issue is Gavin Newsom is a politician, and he is talking about 3 content creators who the entirety of their audience would never vote for Gavin Newsom. That's part of that. That's the initial part of the fear, okay? And so that's the first issue. The second issue was I am going to put books like the Communist Manifesto in front of my children and be like, I want you to read things I vehemently disagree with. I want you to read Mein Kampf. I want you to read all of these books right now. I want you to read them first. I want you to be able to discern this is what you believe, this is not what you believe, but I want you to hear both sides of whatever something is. And the idea that I have 2 of my really good friends who are socialists, and I listen to their podcast every week, and I message them all the time. I was like, hey man, thank you for saying what you said. It made me think about things in a more open-minded way. This, again, of all people, it was Destiny who said this. He goes on, Graham Stephan show, and he goes, one of the things that I have to admit is that Republicans or the people in the conservatives will debate anyone, anytime, anywhere, and the people on my side of the aisle won't debate any of them, and all they do is just, it was Richard Reeves who came on our show, and he goes, the reason why Andrew Tate became so popular is because he had a message to a group of people that were not being heard. And it was academics who were specifically deciding this is beneath us. Men being a victim of anything? Oh, I mean, yes, men are 9 times more likely to commit suicide after their divorce, but fuck them, who cares? Well, like, clearly, there was this massive group of individuals who were just totally being ignored, and academia could never even consider the idea of a man being a victim of anything. And so that because this whole thing was ignored by academia, that what happened was content creators outside of academia were able to come into that space and have those conversations.
You're always going to fill the vacuum when there's a void there. And there was clearly a void. By the way, here's some of the stats on guys, and then I want to get the girl's opinion. So there's, Rolo, I mean, I got to give you credit. You've been talking about this for years. The trend of this male decline and why it's a problem for women as well. So American colleges, they used to, I think 30 years ago, it was 60% male, 40% female. Now it's the exact reverse, 60% female.
And remember,
in
that's
college.
enrollment, not graduation.
Yeah,
graduation is even worse.
40% male. Now, what is in terms of graduation?
Well, it depends on the degrees. So if
Okay.
you're talking about bachelor's degrees or like higher degrees, but like at master's and doctorates, women are far out.
They're crushing.
Graduating men.
63% of young men are single. Professor Galloway talks about the decline in close friends with men. This is as of 2022. 27% of men have 6 or more close friends. If you extrapolate that and go back to the 90s, it was 55% of men. So men have basically cut their close friendships in half. Thank God I'm friends with you guys, by the way. Okay, and you.
I think one of the reasons for that metric is that they are using a female metric for that. They still to this day think that men make friends like women make friends.
Oh,
That's
really?
why.
Well, 15% of men apparently have 0 close friendships, which is super weird, right?
Yeah, but that means 85% of guys still do.
Well, good. Thank God. So they also talk about you talked about the more likely to commit suicide after a divorce, Mike, 9 times, I believe you said.
Yeah. I mean, I got that from Rollo.
Yeah,
It was
8 times more likely.
8 times more likely to commit suicide once they've been zeroed out and been divorced.
And anywhere between 3.5 to 5 times more likely just in general.
And 80% of violent crimes are committed by men, but 90% are committed by men. 80% of the victims of violent crime are men.
As well.
I mean, so it's one of these situations where it's like, yes, it's problematic, but there's a reason. We had a discussion last night with a girl. She's like, isn't it 49% women to men in the population? The answer is yes, because men die sooner and die more often. Now,
male on male.
Yeah, so that's the reason why.
So the article basically summarizes the fact that it looks like there's an epidemic of male anger, which you talked about. But at the end of the day, it says that it comes down to loneliness, sadness, and they're hungry for connection.
So if you like that clip, click right here to watch another. Or if you want to watch the entire SOSCAST, click right here.